So my name's Courtenay Mihinui. It's my married name. I'm a thrup from the Eastern Bay of Plenty, and we're a blended family of 6 kids. So I want to talk about my eldest child, who's 22. She contracted pneumococcal meningitis when she was 5 months old, and so today I just want to talk a bit about our journey thus far. So my daughter's name is Demar. She's got a really unique name and she's a really unique girl. So she's 22, she's a really cool girl. She can't move, she can't feed, she's completely immobile, and she's very cool. She's got a great attitude on her. She doesn't talk, but she's smart in a non-verbal way. It's really cool. She's fantastic. When she hears my husband singing, I can see her eyes, they sort of just flicker up, and she looks for him, and like if my mum comes in, she looks for my mum, and I just know, I just have a sense that she's feeling okay and feeling happy, and it's just the best. Yeah. Or at 3 a.m. when she's woken me up, and I walk into her room and she spins her eyes around, and I think, you just wanted to yarn, like it's 3 a.m. Yeah, so she's got some really cool moves. She's a little 2IC. When Demar got sick, I was a young mother. I'd taken her to the doctor twice before, and when we finally got her into the hospital, she had crossed her eyes and they didn't uncross, and we didn't know what to do, so we presented an ED, and everything kind of happened really quickly because she was already really sick, and we didn't really understand how sick she was. So by that evening when we were flown to Starship, I think, naively thought that she was going to be okay, and especially now because we're in Starship. I'm sure there would have been some dialogue along the way about her condition deteriorating. I don't recall it. I didn't have any tools to deal with the enormity of taking her and all of that kind of thing. So at the time I felt really confused and obviously upset. My little baby's on life support and they're doing all these things, they're talking all this language I don't know. I didn't have enough confidence to speak up and say, what are you talking about, what's going on? My family were all around me supporting me, however I didn't quite know how to support Demar. I remember being told that most of her brain had died, and the way it was delivered to me just floored me, and I couldn't respond and I couldn't comprehend it, and I got really upset and asked the doctor, can you just back up and tell me what exactly that means? And the terminology was wrong. I didn't know what was going on, and eventually I called a meeting with the charge nurse of the ward, and I said I need to talk to somebody else. At the time I could feel how dire things were at this point, but I needed to understand better what her life was going to be and how we support her. So that was a really negative experience for us, learning how severe her disabilities were from a doctor that didn't understand how to say that to us. Yeah. Today, if I was speaking to that doctor that I felt treated us really badly, I'd probably say thank you. There were no thanks coming from me at the time, but now in hindsight I can see how that helped us as a family. I think maybe what you would need to understand is not everybody knows what you're talking about, and my child was severely brain damaged, and that takes a minute to process. So maybe if you could understand that it needs to be treated with respect and maybe a bit more delicate. So, but thank you. When I first started talking about Demar's limitations in her life and advanced care planning for Demar. It was in a paediatrician's office, and it was the most unnatural conversation I've had in my life. And I felt really upset, and I felt like I can't do this, this is not going to happen, I can't do this. But he showed me that I'm doing so much for her to be able to talk about it and have something in place. And so that was the first time I ever spoke about having something in place. I think prior to that, if we spoke about her demise, it would cause her demise, and so you just never spoke about those kinds of things, and she's going to be fine, and she's not going to be fine. And so knowing that that was in place, we presented an ED when Demar was about 15. No, she was about 12. She had really bad pneumonia, and one of the doctors I knew from ED pulled me into the side room and said, she's not responding. These are our options. Would you like to call your family? And I felt like he was a godsend doing that with me. It wasn't what I wanted to hear, and it was very difficult to fathom not having her and her dying. But that conversation was probably the best conversation I've had with a clinician around her dying. I think what made it feel okay was that he let me decide what I wanted to feel about it. So he gave me all the information and let me decide what my feelings were and how I was going to react. And that is everything. You can't decide what I need to hear and what I can or can't hear. You know what I mean? I was grateful that he gave me all the information, and it was everything I didn't want, and he gave it to me, and that was wonderful. That's what I wanted. Yeah. And that's what made it so positive, is that he gave us the opportunity to do what we needed to do with everything. So we knew everything, so we could make better decisions for ourselves. Yeah, he didn't take any of those decisions away from us, so that was important. I think now that Demar is an adult, things have become really tricky. So I now have to prove that I'm the right person to speak for her. I think that's quite important, but it does still feel a little bit unusual or a bit strange that I'm trying to convince a stranger that actually I'm her biggest advocate, so I need to be able to call these shots. But the conversation is like, so when we talk, because she's non-verbal, we always include her in the conversation. She doesn't say much, but we like to acknowledge what she might like. I'm happy that we do always try and include her in decisions that we're making. And it's often, not often, it has been decisions that I don't like. It's not what I want. I don't want her to be resuscitated. So that's for her, that's not for me. Yeah. I don't want her to be bagged. I don't want any extra interventions if she's going to die. That's for her. Yeah. So, things like that, it's very... it needs to be about her, and it's taken me a little bit to understand and accept, but we're there. I think what would be helpful to young families dealing with death is just the honesty and the respect. Don't try and know what's better for them to hear. Don't think, well, we can't talk about that because, it's rough. I don't think they'll cope, or it might, you don't know anything about how they're going to respond or react. So I think that respect of making sure they've got everything that they need to make decisions for themselves and their families, that's really important. The communication is always going to be probably an issue, and whatever boundaries there are and difficulties there are with communicating with different cultures and different families, but yeah, I think you must always be honest and upfront with what's happening. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what we're going to do. This is what we think we're going to do. This is what might happen. Or, families need to be a part of that conversation, for sure. Yeah. I know my child better than you. That's just it. I need to be part of that conversation. Yeah. We have karakia whenever we want karakia. And we will try and adhere to the hospital processes, of course, and policies, of course. But these are what are important to us. There's not always going to be just one person here. When you speak with us, there's always more than one person here. So please be respectful, as will we. But this is our family. This is our immediate family. All 25 of us. So, you know what I mean? Within reason, of course, but that's how we do things. And there's nothing. That's it. That's just it. Yeah. My 3 top tips for a brand new clinician talking to a family about death would be: tell me you don't know. Tell me you're uncomfortable. Be real about how you're feeling as well. Be honest about everything and what that means. And be respectful. Give people time. Imagine if it was you. Yeah. I mean, be a human. Just feel your way through. You'll be fine.